Hello, my name is Mark Sabatella and I am the author of Mastering MuseScore. Today I'm going to show you how to create your first score. We're going to use as an example song Mary Had a Little Lamb, which most of us should remember from childhood. So to get started, I'm going to click the very first measure to select it to tell MuseScore this is where we want to start entering notes. I'm going to use keyboard shortcuts throughout this demonstration because it is the most efficient way to do almost everything. So I use the keyboard shortcut N to go to note input mode. And now we have a cursor where we can start entering notes. The way that you enter notes is you first select a duration and then you enter the pitch. To select the duration, you can use these icons here, but there's keyboard shortcuts for these as well. And the important one to know is that quarter note is 5. Then it's 4, 3, 2, 1, etc. as we go to shorter note values, or 6, 7, 8, 9 as we go to longer note values. So it's 5 for the quarter note, so I type 5, and now I can start typing my notes. I go with E first, and when I look at this, I realize MuseScore has to pick an octave, and that's not the octave I want. I'd like to go an octave lower, so Control down moves the most recent note down an octave. Now I can continue entering notes. D, C, D, and then a couple more E's. And now we need to enter a half note E. So I changed the duration to a half note by typing 6. And you notice the icon at the toolbar has also changed to a half note icon. And I can now type E to enter that note. I can now continue entering the rest of this line. I need quarter notes again, so 5, and then D, D, and now back to half note, so 6, D, and now back to quarter notes. So 5, then E, G, and then a half note, so 6, G. And I am now done entering the first line of notes, and I will press Escape to get out of note input mode. Before I go on, I want to look at the inspector over here to show you that this is a very useful window later on as you do more advanced things in MuseScore, but we're not going to need it today. So I'm just going to close it to get it out of the way, and don't worry, you can always get it back from the View menu. So now I want to enter the lyrics. So I will click the very first note, E, and I'm going to use Control L. On a Mac, that's Command L. And this gives me a cursor where I can start entering the lyrics. So you just type the syllables, use hyphens to separate syllables. Within a word, use space to separate words. M-A, may, and then dash, re, space, had, a, then lit, and then dash, tol, space, lamb, space, little lamb, little lamb. And when I'm done with that line, again, I'll press Escape. So that's the first line, music and lyrics. To go to the second line, I'm going to be a little clever here and realize that the first two measures of the next line are almost identical to the first two measures of this line. So I'm going to use copy and paste. I click an empty spot in the first measure to select it, and then I will shift-click an empty spot in the next measure to select it. Now I can use Control-C to copy. I click measure 5, Control-V to paste. Now this is almost correct, but when you think about it, this next line should be Mary had a little lamb, its fleece was white as snow. This lamb, this E here, should only be a quarter note. So I can click that note and press 5, the shortcut for quarter note, and it changes the selected note to a quarter note. When you're in note input mode, the duration keys change the next note. When you're not in note input mode, what we call normal mode, a duration key changes the current note. So I press 5, now it's a quarter note. I can now continue entering notes. So I will select the quarter rest, press N for note input mode, press 5 just to make sure I've got a quarter note coming, and start entering some more notes. It's E, and then D, D, E, D, and then whole note for the final note. And if 5 is quarter note, 6 is half note, 7 is whole note. So 7, and then C. I press Escape to get out of note entry mode. And I now have almost the whole song in. I'm just going to enter the final lyrics. So select the E, Control L. Its fleece was white as snow. Only things left to do now is some cleanup. So I'm going to get rid of all the empty measures. I'll click the first empty measure here, and I'm going to shift click the last one. It's actually off the bottom of the screen, so I'm going to scroll down. If you have a mouse wheel, you just use the scroll wheel. If you have a touchpad, then you just use 2-finger swipe to scroll vertically. And if you swipe horizontally on some touchpads, that will scroll horizontally. Or on some touchpads, you need Shift plus swipe to scroll horizontally. So I go to the bottom of the score, Shift click the last measure, and now all my empty measures are selected, and I can delete them with Control Delete. On a Mac, that's Command Delete. And I'm now scrolling back up. The only things left to do is get the title and composer information. So I double click the title, Control A to select, and then I can type Mary had a little lamb. The composer of this song is actually known. It's Lowell Mason. So I will enter that. And the lyricist is Sarah Hale. And I can enter that by right-clicking in this frame, add text, add lyricist. Sarah Hale. And there you have it. That is your first song, Mary Had a Little Lamb.